Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Tuesday night philosophy teachings with Rinpoche. My name is Michaela, and I've been attending the classes here for about 6 years now. I'd like to say that these classes have been a very important part of my weekly activity, and they've certainly changed my life for the better. So I'm very glad that we're able to offer these teachings to so many people around the world now, especially with the difficult year that we've all been having. So Rinpoche has been teaching every Tuesday night, 4 terms a year for the last 28 years on various Buddhist texts. This term, Rinpoche will be teaching on the 5th chapter of Shantideva's Bodhisattva's Way of Life. We'd like to thank our very generous benefactors, Mark Dixon and Patricia Bygrave, whose generosity has enabled us to offer these teachings for all to benefit. Anyone is welcome to become benefactors of the teachings, and we welcome people to do so. I would also like to thank the technical team of the Society, who has turned this area here into a mini TV studio, so all of us can appreciate and receive these teachings. So I'd now like to pass over to Rinpoche, and I have the honour of presenting Lama Choedak Rinpoche.
Thank you very much, Michaela, and all the members of our committee and technical team in particular for yet again staging these teachings so that many of our friends across the globe can listen and hear and understand some ways of our mind that we can improve by listening to these teachings. So at the very beginning of the teachings, I'll do a short refuge prayers, not just as a formality, but to renew the refuge. You can never do it enough, because refuge is the way of the Buddha. If you appreciate the Dharma, then your thinking and your approach and your perception, your opinions can change. When you don't remember the Dharma, we slip very quickly. So remembering the Buddha, remembering his teachings, and even more remembering the amazing lineage that has kept from the very beginning till now, has kept these teachings alive. So we are therefore rejoicing the qualities. We are affirming our gratitude to the Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha. Buddha is the enlightened one. The Dharma is his amazing lifetimes, not just one lifetime, many lifetimes. As we can call it sweat and tear, if I may allow to say so, that his earnings and yearnings that has earned the enlightenment. So Dharma only came from his enlightenment, so it's even more precious, really. And he taught that. And then we are able to learn the Dharma because Buddha realized it and taught it. But that Dharma that Buddha taught was not lost in history, Many empires have come and gone, and their names are not even remembered. But Buddha is empire of empires, a spiritual kind of towering figure, whose legacy and contribution to the world is timeless gem. We call triple gem. So let me say the refuge prayers, and if you know, join your hands at the heart. O in the Buddha Dharma Sangha Aite Refuge Alaite by virtue Ajivendala Ajare Buddha Truebe and the Buddha Dharma Sangha Rajere Vete Alajdeme Bhaivache Ajevedala Ajare Vadavadrubins and Abu Dharma Sangha Ajere Vete Alajdeme Bhaivache Ajevedala Ajare Vadavadrubins. So how do we aid other beings? The question is, if you have the grace of the Dharma in your life, how can we be useful, more useful than just doing technical services to each other, whether you are a delivery guy or whether you are a florist or whether you are, whatever you do, how can we add meaning and purpose? How can we really aid beings on top of what we do as our everyday duty is concerned? So that is through loving kindness. We should do it with loving kindness. If you can sell the flowers or grow the flowers and you give flower to each other, but flower itself is not edible. Flower itself should be given as a symbol of love. We give loving kindness. We greet each other with loving kindness. We honor you. We respect you. We thank you. And we say these things lovingly. It will make them happy and make ourselves happy. So we have to practice loving kindness. People who are in Buddhism but forget to practice loving kindness, but instead of judgment, instead of kind of righteousness, that's not Buddhism. Loving kindness is first and most important teachings you should practice. Always looking for the flaws of others is not. If you see the flaws of others, which you shouldn't be surprised because you have your own, you should practice compassion. That's the second one. You should practice compassion. How we all are in the same boat, and not feeling that we have no flaws and others have flaws, and then express our outrage. That is violence. That is not Buddhism. That is in what you call impatience. That is not patience. That is not kindness. That's ill will. So don't practice that, but practice compassion. And if you do this too, the one who has a refuge, you will have a lot of joys. Your life would not be same ever again, because you have something good that you do that brings joy, not from things you have, not from places you live. Of course they can give too, but most importantly, the good that you do to others, and the difficulties that you tolerate with others. This will give you real joy. The joy will not be kind of not ordinary pleasures or things like that. This joy will last long, like joy of finding Dharma. You can never find anything more precious than that. So you should always think that I have Dharma. You don't need anything if you have Dharma. You got to find that kind of joy. The Kunu Rinpoche, the great author on Bodhicitta, who taught his Holiness Dalai Lama this book, he said, "I don't need anything." When his friend came and brought some bags of food because he looked very poor and lonely, but he wasn't poor and lonely. He was just so contented to live as a simple monk with the other fellow hermits. And he said, "I have bodhicitta. I have loving kindness. I have compassion. What do I need?" You don't need anything. Why? He was full of joy, beaming everyone. That's how he became His Holiness Dalai Lama's teacher. Not by righteousness, not by impatience, not by power, not by status, but through his simplicity and humility, living in the gutters of Varanasi with Hindu sadhus, with humility and joy, simplicity and joy. Joy is such an invaluable thing. And then you will have capacity to practice equanimity. When things around you are not always smooth and nice, you will learn to be kind. You will not be too attached to some. You will not become too aversive to difficult ones. You will treat both of them with equanimous compassion. Why? Because that's the Buddha Dharma. Because that's where we take refuge in. So next prayers I'm going to do is called Four Immeasurables. They're reflecting on the immeasurable loving kindness, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy, immeasurable equanimity. And what do you need? You don't need more than that. It's more than 4 arms, with that you will get 4 arms actually. We have 4-armed Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, no wonder, because he has all these 4. So join our hands and renew our commitment to practice these 4 in everyday life. Happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness that suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness that suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. Samje damje dewa dewe judan dembara juju donga dan donga ji judan drawara juju donga mebe dewa dame drawa juju nyere chadan yidan de danyam la nebara juro ju. So now we will recite the Heart Sutra mantra Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhi Swaha. Gate Gate Parangate Parasangate Bodhi Swaha. Om Gate Gate Parangate Parasangate Bodhi Swaha. Om Gade Gade Parangade Parasangade 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 Bodhi Swaha. Om Gade, Barangade, Barazangade, Bodhisattva. Om Gade, 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 Gade, Barangade, Barazangade, Bodhisattva. Namo Lama Choedak Rinpoche, Sanjila Jula Janzala, Kendila Janzala, Jimajara Barada Jimbala Janzala, Kenala Janzala, Tutanewala, then Dajaki Demetin, the Refuge, Jimajara Barada Jimata, Samila, Sigadan Jiva, Tutanewala, and Duty Generals of a Sharon Doba, taking the Daka Jimajara Parada Jimata, Samu, Hila, Sam Shin, Sikadan, Tutanewala, and Dan Kodan Jiva, Benjamin, Chotam, Papa Conjusum, the Gaia de Meta, Danya, and Doba, Shiva Juja, Shiva Juja, Namalama Janzala, Sanjala Janzala, Jula Janzala, Kendila. Imjimajara Jibara Jimala Janzalo, General Janza, Dazaki, and Metzing the Refuge, Imjimajara Jibara, the Jimatana, Samela, in the garden, to the Neval, and the General of Jim Doba, taking the Dagi, Imjimajara Jipara, the Jim, turn some healers in the garden, to the Neval, and Dan Cordan Jivatamba, should be Benjamin Nivich, and Papa Conjus, and the guide, Tadani, the Chela, and Opera, Rauda, Shiva, Namalama Janzala, Sanjala Janzala, Jula Janzala, Kendila Janzala. Imjimajara Barada Jimal, Kenana Janza, to the Nevala, and Dazaki, then Betzing did that river uses, Darangala, and by Jajinji. Imjimajara Jibara, the Jimatana, Samahilas, in the garden, to the Nevala, and Dan Kodan Jivatamba, Chirbe, Benjamin Divich, and the Baba Conjus, and the guide. Tadani, the Jela, and over Jim, Rauda, Shiva, Jura, Daudan, Jadan, Daba, teaching a Jola, Simjan, Dujel, and Dodo, Zobe, Janju, Juvala, Jadan, and Gates, away, Border Javada, Niavara Javan, Zozo. So, thank you everyone joining the Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra's regular Tuesday night teachings on Buddhist philosophy, the teachings and the writings of some luminaries of Indian, what we call Nalanda Panditas, who are the great exponents of the teachings of the Buddha that are preserved in the very collection of sutras and Vinayas, Abhidharmas, which are a bit hard for ordinary people to access. These scholars like Shantideva has studied, contemplated, and listened, meditated on them, and then subsequently they wrote their own works that goes far to explain in their beautiful writings for the benefit of people like us. So Shantideva is one of the celebrated Indian, Nalanda Panditas, whose writing is very popularly rejoiced and honored in the Tibetan Buddhist world. And in fact, His Holiness Dalai Lama always teaches on the basis of these texts, and he himself says that once he received teachings on this from Kunu Rinpoche, he really it helped him so much, and so he often even becomes very teary about the great blessings and benefit that these writings have helped him. And so it will be not untrue for everyone else who have good merit to discover these writings, listen, and read, and contemplate, and meditate, and more important, apply in their earlier lives. They really will find a way of life that is totally distinct from our ordinary way of life. So this text is called Bodhisattva's way of life. Bodhisattvas are spiritual warriors who have discovered the selfishness as the very root cause of all the problems. And this is the great bravery, because they discover the true enemy. Previously, one thinks the enemies or problems are outside there, and we make weapons to kill them, destroy them, build bunkers and destroy all of them. Still, there's no sign of peace. So the Bodhisattva's way of finding is way of discovering the true invisible enemy, that is inner enemy of our own self-centeredness. So one who is very courageous enough to wage such a war is a spiritual warrior. The others are foolish warriors who go to hurt another sentient being for his own delight, for his own victory of taking their land or taking their house. That's not victory. That's theft. That's theft by force, and nobody rejoices that or commends that. But one who is able to conquer his own enemy within, that is the true Bodhisattva. And then who makes a vow to not only apprehend it, but conquer it, tame it, and transform it to the benefit of the other, who we always tend to lay the blame on in the previously when we were such a cowards. So the cowards who transforms their way of life to become Bodhisattvas way of life adopts these teachings. And this book has 10 chapters, and we have learned to study at least 1 or 2 chapters each term, and this term we are going to study the 5th chapter. 5th chapter is a reasonable length. It's got I think about 100 over verses. 100 over verses, and it is the most poignant chapter, because it is about how to guard your mind. I mean, who would have thought you need to guard your mind? I thought we have to guard your door or fences or the borders or something like that. And therefore it's called, the 5th chapter is called Guarding the Mind, or Vigilance. Some people have translated as vigilance. I would call it introspection, because you have to always checking and inspecting your own thought and attitude. And if you have a duty to guard your own mind, and you're guarding that, and then you will reap great benefit. So there are a number of these writings of Shantideva is all in verses, and I will not talk a lot about Shantideva because there's a lot you can read about him. Biographically, not a lot of things to be found, but his writings, he's written quite a few books, and this Bodhisattva's Way of Life is probably most famous one. There are other writings of his, but this one is definitely famous. It has been translated. There's at least over 50 commentaries that I know of by Tibetan scholars from early 11th century, maybe to 13th century. 13th century. One I know, the earliest commentary is by Sonam Tsemo, Sakyapa Master. Sonam Tsemo. Sonam Tsemo is Sachen Kunga Nyingbo's, eldest son, So he wrote a commentary on this. He studied this in Sangpu, and I don't know there's any other commentaries earlier than his. Then since then there are so many commentaries that this text has inherited, and it has recently been translated into many European and Asian languages, and even in English there are at least about 12 different translations and many commentaries translated. As the tradition requires, I'm going to try to teach right from the root text itself instead of using any commentaries, and because it's good to teach what my understanding is about it, as long as I don't misinterpret it. So watch out. So the chapter itself is called the Guarding the Mind, or I call it introspection, because introspection has a meaning of guarding the guard. Usually we guard something else, but here we introspectively guard our own mind. So the guarding the mind or introspection. So it says here, those who wish to guard their rules or their vows must guard their minds as if they really have got the self-discipline. With self-discipline, they should guard their mind. And if one fails to guard this very mind of one's own, he or she will not be able to guard all of their list of other vows and precepts, be they pratimoksha or bodhisattva or vajrayana vows. So this first verse very much highlights that if you wanted to guard anything, if anything, any vows and precepts, a commitment that you think you have is very important, you should guard your mind. Why? Because the mind is the forerunner of all things, particularly your vows. Your vows can only be guarded by having a mind that actually can restrain itself. So that's why the guarding the mind is the most important one. Guarding the other things, minding other people's life, minding other people's kind of activities. That's not guarding. That's minding other people's business. So this doesn't concern us whatsoever. A lot of people are like that. When they're starting practice a little bit, then they become all very, very much sort of concerned of other people's vows or precepts, or whether they guard it or not, whether they're living by the books or not. Sure, that's their duty. How about ourselves? Do we guard our own mind, or do we become busybody in concerning other people's precepts or vows and so on? Because we are so good at detecting other people's flaw, we do not know how to guard our mind. So that's why Shantideva says, if you fail to guard this mind, you will not be guard any of your precepts. Why? Your mind is busily engaging in judging, in sort of finding flaws or faults of others. Then that is not precepts. That is harming others. That is minding others, because that will not guard your own mind. Because you will quickly. It's like saying when people are making noise, you want them to stop making noise, but you saying don't, shut up, because you have to screen to say that. So you cannot make people to shut up because you made the noise. But if you kept quiet, if you want people to keep quiet, if you kept quiet, that's the best way to guard your mind, and also maybe have a positive influence of making other people's guard the mind. Therefore, you cannot guard other people without guarding your own mind. And whether you guard your mind is yourself have to mind it. Nobody else can mind. So therefore, do not waste your effort try to mind other people's affairs, because if you do that, and then you will be losing your own guardianship of your own mind. So that's the first verse. And then the second verse goes, letting your own mental elephant to wander about, will cause inestimable harm. When you let your wild elephant to roam around, it will cause an inestimable harm. So without taming this unruly, intoxicated elephant mind, it will. If you don't do that, it will bring all kinds of untold calamities and problems. So what it's telling is, if you have some problems in your life that you really are mad about, that you are really angry about, it's because you have let your wild elephant mind untamed and let it loose. Let it go in rampage, and then it caused so much damage. It caused so much damage to everything else, and also your whole body become lacerated by this mad kind of outrage in which one is behaving. Because without minding or taming the elephant-like intoxicated mind, nobody can harm more than more harm than your own mind to yourself. So this is very, very introspective, isn't it? Usually society and world always says, what? Who did that to you? Always people say, who? Who is somebody else? Always somebody else, and trying to find out, Always look at someone else's fault as the cause of it. That's letting the intoxicated elephant mind go in rampage. So therefore one should not do that, because it is causing all the harms and defeats and the embarrassment that you have encountered so far. All the countless harm is self-caused. It is this untamed, unruly elephant's maddened, intoxicated behavior that has brought all these calamities, which is very, 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 very confronting for most people, because most people are pretty bent on thinking all of their sufferings and problems are caused by him or her or them, and they always have this enmity towards other people. They don't realize their kind of what you call vindictiveness and begrudge they have towards others is causing more harm than you think you're alleging them to have done before. So not knowing that is self-intoxication. Like mad elephant is so intoxicated, and it is causing so much calamities and harms and damage. It is not able to tell itself. So there's a lot of things, Amazing thing is about that we are actually suffering as a result of our own action and our afflictions. We do not suffer the wrongdoing and afflictions of other people. They may instigate you. They may kind of poke on you. They may sort of see how stable you are, or whether you have any wisdom or power to contain your mind or not. But real harm to us is caused by our own deluded, intoxicated, wild elephant-like mind. So watch out. Therefore, you should tame your elephant-like mind. We just did one session of karma abiding. Just then, the book that we were using is called Taming the Elephant Mind. Yeah, taming the elephant mind. That's not a new idea that people like me can write. So Shantideva's time, they talk about that we have to tame this wild elephant-like mind. And how much self-harm that this mad, stubborn elephant is causing. So therefore, all this harm is self-caused. And a lot of people are causing self-harm. And they are first always try to point finger at somebody else. And when they cannot do that, and then they are causing harm to themselves. They're just completely like a wild elephant on the loose. So therefore, we have to learn how to put a lasso around the wild elephant-like mind's neck, and then tie it to a post, make it to sit still and meditate. And otherwise, it will cause huge damages. So how are we going to do this? If the mindfulness rope, if the rope of mindfulness can tie the elephant tightly on the pose, all fear will be allayed, and all the virtues, good things, will come your way. So this the third verse is talking about, because of the danger that your wild and unruly and mad elephant-like cause so much harm, therefore you should equip yourself with the rope of mindfulness. So this is the meditation. You have to learn to acquire the skill of mindfulness, and if you have the skill of mindfulness, that's like a rope to catch the elephant. So therefore, you need the mindfulness to tie the mind of elephant to the post of your concentration. Then all the fears and all the reactions and overreactions that your mind and body and behavior is doing will be diminished and decreased, and therefore all the virtues, good qualities will naturally come your way. What it's saying is that if you're able to tame the elephant, then elephant will not go on rampage, don't destroy anything. Instead, you have the elephant under Mahout's control. Then the Mahout can make the elephant to do many, many wonderful jobs, to carry all the harvest, or carry this load to that, and you even yourself ride on it, and so there are lots of good benefits can be reaped by having the tamed elephant working for you rather than causing so much damage by its unruliness. So therefore, like a person who has learned to tame and understand his mind and emotions, then they will not behave rashly or aggressively, physically, verbally, and emotionally. They will not do that. By not doing that, their mindfulness has made them to not do it. Why? Self-restraint. Self-restraint, be it physical, verbal, it's of course social, but mental self-restraint is most important. Minding your thoughts. Check your thoughts, whether they are worthy of hosting and posting, let alone sharing, So there are lots of thoughts. People are suffering their opinions. They don't realize. They're keeping bad thoughts without thinking they're bad thoughts. They're thinking poisons, thinking they're medicine. They're eating them as food. They're just eating themselves poisonous food. It will get them sick in the long run. So some of the thoughts and opinions, particularly bad opinions, bad stories people tell you, are making you get sick. How many people get sick by getting it from somebody else's bad mouth, bad sources? Yeah. They call source of the suffering. Your source of the suffering is someone else's unruly mind of elephant. Their deluded mind told you deluded things, and you become completely intoxicated. Yeah, they pass drinks, don't they? In the bar, they are so generous to each other. They're giving drinks to each other, buying drinks to each other. It's not helping. What's the point of giving intoxicant poison to each other? Give them a glass of water. It's much better. So. People who are not tamed in mindfulness, they're giving the very thing that, they talk about in Buddhist teachings. We talk about the demerit of drinking alcohol. Let's talk about demerit of giving alcohol. And if somebody didn't introduce and give alcohol, you would have never drank it. Yeah, giving alcohol is more harmful, So therefore, one should never give gifts of alcohol. Particularly if you yourself know that demerits of drinking alcohol, because you're giving them tool of distraction. Yeah. Who introduced alcohol to you? Maybe your best friend. Your best friend gives their worst trait, So one should develop mindfulness of not letting your wild elephant go even more mad. So we have to tie the elephant with the post to the post of mindfulness by the rope. The rope of mindfulness to the post means they should listen to the teaching every Tuesday night, or study Dharma, or do something good each week with consistency. Not sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's like very, very unreliable, very inconsistent, childish. Very consistent people get tamed very quickly. Like elephant takes time to tame by the Mahout. Likewise, we need to take time to tame this deluded mind, and then you will see how quickly your mind has changed, your attitude has changed, your opinion has changed. Yeah, your opinions. You're suffering from opinion. Remember that. You think you suffer from somebody else's act? No, you suffer your opinion. Don't learn to disassociate yourself from the bad opinion. It says you will be able to allay your fears. Yeah, fears of wrong views and fears of a bad opinion. You're keeping bad opinion. What have you got in your bag, they call it, if you went shoplifting, they can tell it's in your pocket. Like this, when a person is frightened, we can tell you have bad opinions in your head. And that's why you have suffering from anxiety, fear, insecurity, doubt, suspicion, lack of discipline. All this comes from that. So all of those things can be lost and dropped. Instead, you will have virtuous qualities, many virtuous qualities. He said, every virtues will come into your hands. Every virtues of kindness, tolerance, compassion, forgiveness, self-discipline, gratitude, lack of enmity, all of these merits will come into your hand. Wonderful, isn't it? Wonderful. So he says, what if you have some self-introspection, then you will find you like what you're thinking, because your mind is now readily able to cultivate those positive thoughts in your mind. Positive and thoughts in your mind. Yeah, and then he says the tigers and lions and wild elephants and polar bears, snakes, every hostile kind of beast, as well as those who are guardians of the guardians in the hell realms, and all those ghosts and every kind of evil beings that society talk about, whether they're wild beasts, whether they're beings in the hell realms, or terrible people who do very bad death. All of these enemies, all of these so-called fearful things that are outside, it's said that you will be able to overcome all fears of tigers, lions, elephants, bears, snakes, and all hostile beasts, as well as those beings who are henchmen in the hell realms, and ghosts and ghouls and every other kind of evil phantom that you might see. By simply binding this mind alone, by simply tying the mind to the post of mindfulness, all of those fearful objects will likewise be tamed. Yeah. If you by simply taming just this mind alone, all of those things, those animals, those fearful things will be naturally tamed, because you will not be harboring any fear from them. Why? Because you have tamed your mind. Why are people very afraid of tigers and elephants? Not because they're necessarily aggressive, because one has this belief that tigers have in their own intent wanted to maul everybody. No, tigers are themselves afraid. We will maul them. We will shoot them. Tigers probably, first when they learn to walk in the trees, they heard people hunting them. So they're more afraid of us than we need to be afraid of them. You can see people who have tamed tigers, lions, and bears. Those animals are so wild, so tame, like your own domesticated. When we think the animals are wild, and then we treat them wildly, then they become even wilder. They're more afraid of us, and we're afraid of them, even though they haven't done anything. They call shark attack, for instance. They call shark attack. They never say men go and attack the sea all the day, every day. All the fishermen are every day going attacking sharks to get their fins. Where does the shark fin soups get from? People go and destroy the shark's place. Why are all the animals so fearsome? Because we have done the very harmful thing to them, destroying their place of residence, destroying their flora and fauna, destroying their homes and habitat. Then they're very frightful, poor thing. Otherwise, if you have loving kindness and so on, those animals will be naturally tamed. Look at those Buddhist monks who are always working with many, many tigers, because they treat them with mindfulness and tenderness and kindness, and then the tigers actually can feel that. They have so much rapport. They will not cause any harm to somebody unless they themselves are so hungry and thirsty and frightened. When animals devour each other, not because they hate each other. They see them as food because they're so hungry. When human beings go and hunt, now, why they do? From greed. They want to kill them so that we can get their fins or their skins or flesh or whatever. So all those wild animals are made to be wild and ferocious because of our own mind. But if we tame our mind, There was this deer who was really badly injured by one hunter, and then when Milarepa was meditating, this injured deer who was dripping with blood, he come to Milarepa and sat next to him because he felt so safe coming to next to Milarepa, because the hunter down the road has shot him and it's injured him, and the deer coming limping because he obviously felt threatened. But when he saw another man sitting up the road, he didn't feel threatened. He actually came near Milarepa and sat there. Why? Because Milarepa have completely tamed his mind. I wasn't exuding kind of fear and animosity and insecurity in the wild. He was completely at peace in the wild. So even the wild animals came next to him and lie next to him and curl their tails and wave their tails and very, very friendly. Why? Because Milarepa is completely self-tamed person. So, that's why if we tame our own mind, then all of those external fearful things will naturally be tamed. Yeah, so that's a very powerful kind of image. If you just tie this mind on the post of mindfulness, then all of those former objects of fear and insecurity that you feel will all be naturally be tamed. So therefore, if you tame this mind alone, all of this will be tamed. So that's a very, very powerful, positive image of benefit of taming one's mind, isn't it? Taming one's mind. You will sleep very well. You would not be threatened, you will sleep very well. Some people have beautiful bed, nice big house, and they can't sleep on one side, tossing and turning, because they're so unstable. Their mind is so instigated by their own egotism. And then they involve all the fears and anxieties. And because of that, they have so much insecurity and discomfort and unsettled and totally discontented with things because they don't know how to much tame this mind. So therefore, for all the anxiety and the fear, for all this anxiety and fear and suffering in boundless measure that sentient beings have, all of these have their source in the mind itself. This was taught by the truthful one who says the truth. That's the Buddha. Buddha who speaks the truth says all of this fear and anxieties is not caused by some other people or other things. Cause of me. Always thinking of me. The true source of the problem is self-grasping. So therefore mind itself, insecure mind itself, is the source of all this insecurity. Therefore all this boundless suffering are troubled mind, People have so much. It's not that he hasn't got house, not that he hasn't got money, he hasn't got profession, he's got a position, he's got all of that. But he just doesn't know how to mind his mind. He's just completely attached to material things as they are more important than the mind. They're more interested in things than the thought they think. Here, Shantideva was teaching us what thought to choose to keep, what thought that we can see to be dropped. That's more important than shopping, than buying things to overcome your fears. Things doesn't overcome fear, but fearlessness of things does. Egotism promotes fear. So the fully enlightened one has said, all the sources of our fear and anxiety, boundless suffering, that to the extent of sleeplessness, insomnia, to the extent of having very poor diet, very poor health, very poor kind of dealing with people and difficult situations, it's all because of grasping to me. So it is the source is self, the mind itself, getting so caught up in this wildness of it. The Buddha has said that is the true source. Buddha don't tell lies. Buddha tell the truth. This society, in this materialistic society, always look, oh yeah, you're suffering. Oh, who did this to you? I'll make sure that I can prove them. We make sure that he's responsible, as the problem will go disappear. You wouldn't believe how much of the problem will become mushroomed, multiplied by that kind of useless waste of time and resources. One should instead look introspectively within oneself how to change one's mind. You can get someone to change your bulbs. You can get someone to change your tire. You can get someone to paint your clothes or paint your, your house or whatever. But no one can change your mind unless you do it. So, because your mind is the source of all anxiety and fear, it is also source of the remedy. So you got to look in the mind how it can be transformed. You have to learn to transform your mind. So all the description of hells in the Buddhist and Christians and Muslims, all the religions seems to be very good at explaining the hells. I can't believe it. They are so eloquent about talking about the hells. And so here Shantideva says, the hellish whips that torture the living beings, who is the one who made those, and to what purpose did they make those hellish instrument to punish sentient beings? Who made this the burning iron ground? And where does this all the demons and female demons, all of that came in the minds of that people see in the hell realms? So where does this come from? Where does this come from? Is it actually there is a physical hell that is actually, all religious tradition? Buddhist teachings, on a relative level, they also say it is some 500 sort of paksas or something below what Bodh Gaya and so on. I don't think that really means literally that. Literally that. You don't have to go that deep to find hell on earth. You have to go in some of the deep alleys of some of the big dark places in some of the cities. They're full of it. They're full of hellish beings. There's so many prisons. There's so many drinking bars and gambling places. They are like all people wearing very, very nice clothes and putting ties and shorts, and they all look like a hellish being, henchmen causing you to. So people don't realize these things are not created by anybody else but your own mind. All the gambling places are created so that you lose money there, but yet you think you're going to gain money by going to that. So you're trapped. So you're trapped by your craving and desire and greed to wanting to go those things. So where does these hellish beings and those come from? He asked. All of these are but offsprings of the very deluded mind. So said the Buddha. The Buddha said, all of these are a result of your mental projection. Because you are negative thoughts, then you are actually seeing all these negative things in this world or in hell. So therefore, in the entire three different levels of the world, what we call 3 different levels of the world, you can call it subterranean, terrestrial, extraterrestrial. That's one way of looking at it. Or when Buddhistically we talk about desire realm, form realm, formless realm, because the extraterrestrial, terrestrial, all is covered within the form and formless realm, and subterranean, which is under the ground and so on, and of course there are like hells and many animals, insects that live underground. All of these three very complicated world, the three world. There's no greater ban than the mind itself. There's nothing you need to be frightened than the unruly mind. That's very, very powerful. You need not to frighten anything or anyone than your own untamed mind. Such a wonderful saying, isn't it? So people say, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of this. Their house they have double locks in every locks, and they got this security kind of alarm there. All these things, all the sensing devices, all of that. They're afraid of people or something. They're not afraid of their own unruly mind. There's nothing worse than uncontrolled mind. If your mind is uncontrolled, you will find problem everywhere, where no matter how well guarded your garden is, your house is, your land is, your property is, you have insured everything, but still no insured mind. Nobody will sell you insurance policy of insuring mind also, because they're not stupid, because they know how difficult it is to insure anybody's mind. I know some singers have insurance on their throat, I'm told, if something happens to the throat, they have insured, so the insurance policy. But in the meantime, they're paying a lot. They're insuring their voice, voice cord. And I heard that, I don't know whether that's true or not. Some people might insure their, I don't know, whatever it is, They don't realize they can nobody will insure your mind but your meditation, but your introspection. So you should not fear anything but this mind that is on the loose. You should fear your mind that is on the loose. And similarly, there is nothing you need to fear than this mind that is on the loose. That's very important, because people say, he did this, just suspicious of this, these people, those people, these things, they think that you should avoid them at all costs, and then they try to blacklist few people, saying don't. But that's completely materialistic, not Buddhism. Buddhism don't do that. Buddhism says like this: there's nothing like your mind that is dangerous than your mind that is on the loose. The loose mind. That loose mind is the most dangerous one. It's not people, it's not institution, not organization, not wrongdoing of other people. If you really wanted to understand Buddhism, the subject matter that you should change and transform is our own mind. Of course, you can watch out, you can test, you can examine, but you could not test your own, check and govern your own mind. That is the most source of all the problems of the mind that is on the loose. So if transcending giving is to dissipate the poverty of beings, so meaning that if to eliminate that the poverty of the world is the function of the practicing generosity, then why is there still poverty? There are many bodhisattvas who previously reached a perfection of generosity. So why are there still lots of people poverty? Poverty. So therefore, in what way, since the poor are always with us, have former Buddhas practiced perfection and generosity? This is a very good question. So some people think that if you practice generosity, the world will be free of poverty. They don't realize it's a training of the mind. It's not about getting rid of the poverty of the world. I mean, many kings tried that. They didn't want any of their subjects to go hungry, and they distribute everything and equally. But some people always poor, other people always rich. Never have an equanimity of the wealth. Is it because some people didn't practice generosity before? No, it's because sentient beings' karma is so variable, and therefore, why has the perfection of generosity, former Buddhas not alleviated this poverty in the world? This is a question, this is a question. This is a very important question. The true intention to bestow on every being all the material possessions and the fruits of such a gift, if you have this very, very good intention, to give everything what you have for the benefit of all sentient beings, and giving things to others is said to be perfection generosity. And this, as we may say, is but the mind itself. Even being generous really means generous mind. It's giving material possession does give some temporary benefit, but it hasn't alleviated the hunger of everyone. It does. So what does it mean? it is actually mind that you have to practice generosity. That means I have this, I have enough, I have a wonderful mother, I have wonderful upbringing, I have many difficulties there, but the gift of it is far more valuable than the difficulties I encounter. Think like that. That's generosity. Some people are generous because they give things. Others generous because they have so much gratitude. There's so much gratitude. Every time you hear the person, there's so much love and gratitude. And that is the perfection of generosity. It's not alleviation of hunger of the world. That's not generosity. If we can alleviate some people's hunger temporarily, we will, but not perfectly. The real alleviation of poverty is one who does not complain whatsoever. It's amazing, isn't it? He says, the Shantideva says, but the mind itself is the one that perfects generosity. All the teachings say is generosity perfect, and we may say that is the mind itself. How do you know that your mind is generous? You always talk about what you have, what people gave, how wonderful people are. See always good quality of other people. You never talk about the faults of other people, because that's a part and parcel of the generosity. If you have a good harvest, you will have some hay, you will have some chaff as well. So please don't expect to have these grains dropping on your head all the without any shafts and hay. So don't talk about amount of hay that you have to collect or we have to destroy. Talk about how many kilos of grain you have harvested. Yeah, don't be so negative. Why? Because if you're generous, you will be not negative. You will be very generous. How do you know you have introspectively guarded your mind? Yeah, you always talk about the things that are really positive. And you never are short of positive. Why? That's generosity. Generosity is not miserly. He doesn't talk, he's not mean. He doesn't talk about what he doesn't have, what people didn't do. He talk about what everything and anything that he has and he is, all gift of other people. That's the generosity. That's the one who has guarded his mind and says this, And even people ask you, say something, what can I say that is useful? Say something positive. These days it's always people who say negative are considered to be some brave or something. That's completely brave or something. They're just foolish. They're causing harm for themselves and others and everyone else. Is they brave to do that? It's stupid. It destroys yourself and others and everyone. You thought it was brave for whatever reason, bottling up and not daring to speak or something. No. You have no idea. Later on, at the time, people thought he was brave. That person brave is now incarcerated by their own bravery. They should have never spoken as such. They should have never reacted like that before. But yet they did. Why? Because they were so mean. They were not generous. They were not generous. They didn't mind their mind. They mind something else other than that does not concern them at all. Because of that, they became miserable as the consequences. Yeah? So therefore, one who has mind in his hand and guarding that is the generosity. That's what Kuni Rinpoche says. I have bodhicitta. I don't need anything. It's amazing. People going past, they thought he looked very simple and monk and didn't have much to eat or wear. No. He's full of joy. He's full of abundance, gratitude. The gratitude is wealth of all wealth. Craving and possession. No, look at those people who are millionaires who owns lots of casinos and. They are just wrought with some terrible mental problems. Why? Because of lack of gratitude. Still greed. They're slave of greed and their unfulfilling need. That is not one who has control and able to guard his mind. So, texts like this, teaching like this is a great tool for people how to mind their own mind. They need to find a mentor who can teach them how to do. And this book is the workbook for people who wanted to mind their mind. Verse number 9, that one, beautiful. Verse number 10, that one, 10. And then it says, where indeed could beings such as fish and the rest be placed to shield them totally from suffering, deciding to refrain from harming them, it is said to be perfect morality. So this is talking about what is perfect generosity. So if you want to guard your mind, you should practice generosity, minding your mind, and practice abundance and joy and gratitude. And like that, the one who is very, very mindful, a shield, protect the fish and bird and wild animals or even domestic animals or whatever. You try to shield them from cold, heat, and danger, and hunters and so on. Being able to do that, try to restrain them from being harmed by others, and oneself also never think of causing harm to their habitat, let alone their lives. And doing that is morality. Morality is harmlessness. They call it non-violence, but harmlessness. First try not harm, And helpfulness sometimes could be very harmful, So some people help somebody and all of a sudden it became a harm because they resent helping them, and then they say are regretting that they helped them. See, this kind of harm was harm from right from beginning, because the intention was not to restrain from selfishness. When the intention to help others is motivated by selfishness, then help becomes harm to the people they want to help. Also themselves was self-harmed. And that is not morality, is it? That's immorality. Real immorality is that. Real immorality is helping and then withdrawing from any help as if all the help previously is wasted. So there's sort of selfishness. If you selfishly help others, it is not help, it is harm. If you selflessly shield those fish and people or someone from their sufferings and so on, and repeatedly restraining from harming them, so help for a little while, all of a sudden you said, if he's going to do this, I'm going to do this. Then instead of the helping, they do the harming on top of that. And that kind of unrestrained from harming others, of course, is immorality. That is immorality, That is immorality, harmlessness. Thinking that you help somebody, then you withdraw the help, and then you are very vindictive to that. That is immorality of immorality. So morality would be restraining from any of the harm, and that keeping with that, and that is the true morality. That is the guarding of the mind. We need to guard our morality. The people think the morality is to mind other people's business, and then as you can say a lot of bad things about other people's immorality. That's not morality. That kind of morality is a contempt, putting down other people, criticizing others. It's not morality. One has to actually restraining from any such harm. Then your morality that you have guarded. On top of that, you are very kind to other people who are not morally doing very well, who are not competitive towards others, do not look down on other people, do not become jealous of other people who are moral. This is morality. But the moment you become righteous and become very punitive, very, very judgmental, very, very nitpicking of other people's faults, it is not morality, because you're harming them and harming others. So, therefore, what is the perfection morality? Is restraining from harming others, shielding them from being harmed from others. Before you probably did shield them from being harmed. Then later on you're beating them, you're killing them yourself. So what did you do? You just completely went U-turn. So that is not morality. That is exact opposite. So, what is the guarding your mind would do? One who has the introspection will know that which is pseudo morality and which is true morality. Because of that, you have no ill will. You have no ill will, particularly those who helped before, and you have no ill will, even if they did not quite seem to be doing what you expect them to do. You don't have any ill will. That's true morality, because you're refraining from harming them. So one who doesn't guard his mind doesn't know what he does, what he says, what he thinks has no consequences. Only other people has consequences. What he reacts, how he overreacts, and how he poisons others does not have any consequences. Of course, there's more consequences. So one who guards this one's mind will know how to distinguish between what is true perfection of morality and what is pseudo-morality. Knowing to distinguish one from the another, one needs to restrain from the pseudo-morality, and one should practice perfection of morality. So one who has a perfection of morality is very kind to those who are above, who are not exactly as you expect to be moral. You're still kind to them. You still practice compassion to them. You still practice loving kindness to them. You don't practice aversion and enmity and righteousness just because you're moral. Then you're destroyed. You lost. You blew it away. You blew it away. So knowing that that is so is introspection, is guarding your mind, is truly guarding your mind, because you can see you're guarding your mind. And so that's verse number 11. And verse number 12 is the hostile multitude are as vast as the space. So there hostility coming from other people, bad things people doing against you or others. They're heaps. So you're not wrong that they are deluded and they are just as wild a loose an elephant they are. What chance is there that they all should be subdued by your reaction, your punitive measure, your kind of crusade, and so on? But this angry mind be overthrown, and every foe is then and there destroyed. So this is talking about, instead of trying to subdue and conquer and prove everybody wrong and clean the world from such people and so on, that kind of thing. And instead of that, just learn to overcome your anger. Learn to deal with your own anger, and then all of those people you think the wrongdoers will be one with your loving kindness, compassion, forgiveness, because you will have the moral authority to practice that. You will have the moral authority to practice that, and because you don't have any enmity. If you don't have any enmity towards wrongdoers, that shows your abundance of loving kindness and tolerance. This verse is talking about tolerance, because the previous one was morality and one previous that is generosity. So in this particular, when Shantideva talks about these particular verses, he's very meticulous. He said what the mindfulness, what is introspection, what is taming the wild elephant mind, and how it should be tamed, how it should be guarded, and then he's talking about how to overcome this. What the Buddha said, the real source of the problems is very unruly mind, and unless one is able to do that, then you will see all the hells and all the wild beasts and everything out there coming. But once you have tamed your mind, you'll be able to tame all of those, and fear not anything out there that will come to sort of harm you. You would not even feel the hostility coming from others. Why? If you have tamed your mind. If you not have tamed your mind, the fear, anger, anxiety, grief, discontentment, all of these will just cause havoc to you. And you will think it's all external people or things that is making your life miserable. And you wouldn't have a clue how to tame that wild elephant, because you externalize everything. But when you have the mindfulness of introspecting your mind, guarding the mind, then you will realize what is a generous mind. That one generous person is one who actually have a lot of gratitude and contentment, and whether he gives so much to the extent of alleviating our village or whole country is pretty secondary, really. Even if you alleviate for one season, doesn't mean next year they will be all richer. There can be never perfect alleviation of physical worldly boon, worldly possessions. But if you yourself is completely absent of complaint, not because you don't see unruly beings, but because you're so generous in not barking at the wrong tree. So this is what we're talking about. And this is what we're talking about, how to mind the mind. Because we know how not to think and how not to say and what futile exercise they are, and recognizing them, one has a power to exercise. There is self-restraint. This self-restraint is guarding the mind, self-restraint from not only perceiving but thinking and believing your perceptions. Buddha said there is no perception is emptiness. Perception is wrong. Perception is projections. Yeah. But being able to know your perceptions, projection, is quite a guarding of the mind. Just firstly to see your perception, and secondly to check whether it's a veracity of that, reliability of your perception. When you know perception is projection, there is nothing in the object that is identical to what you projected. Remember? So all projected by this very unruly, untamed mind. When you know that, that's a really good introspection. What did you discover today? I discovered that all the perception is mostly my projections. But you thought there was something truly existing in the object, because someone else also saw that. So you're not alone, is it? Oh yeah, that's a great relief. Yeah, you both so correctly perceiving. Yeah, you thought there was only one deluded person. There are many deluded persons. Majority are deluded. Very only few are not deluded. Majority are deluded, particularly if they're vetting on somebody else's as a projection, as a correct perception. In Buddhism, we say 통왕문율 means directly seeing what it is, and then 중세고gyur means a slightly hidden phenomena. 신도고gyur means very hidden phenomena. So most of the time when we are seeing something, we are not seeing the very hidden or even slightly hidden. We are seeing what I saw is true. What I heard is true. And we don't realize what you saw or what somebody saw or perceived is projection. You don't know that because you have no idea of guarding your mind. Because you think that what out there is exactly as identical to you think. So always check, That's why they say, in Australia they have this organization, maybe they are part of the health department, I don't know. Everyone who turns be over 60, they always ring them. He says, oh, you're due for a visual, optical test and hearing test. They know your senses are impaired by age, of course. They're only talking your senses may be impaired by age. But in Buddhism, most people's senses are impaired long before they become old. They're impaired by their delusions, their own selfishness, their own anger, their own fear, their own desire, their own craving. They're seeing things that are not in the object. They're projecting things that the object has nothing to do with it. So, is that not sense impairment? What impairment is that? Why? Because they can't see even the obvious, let alone the hidden and the very hidden. You don't have the capacity to see the obvious. It's obvious as your projection, but you can't even see that as a projection. You think it's truly existing. See? That's why we don't see. Buddha is the only one who is a seer. He actually sees with amazing wisdom eyes. Our eyes are waxed by prejudices and wrong views, and therefore we do not see the obvious. The obvious, that the projection of your own desire or craving and neediness and fear and anxieties and doubt, then all these things manifest to you. This is not obvious to you, Why? Because you don't know how to guard your mind. And that's why your mother or mother-in-law or brother or someone or something is exactly like you think they are. No, they are just completely fabricated by your own anger. It's not obvious to you. Why? Because you don't see your mind doing it. Because you're not guarding that mind. Your mind is so loose, like a wild elephant. So you better get a piece of rope and learn to tie the elephant without chasing it away. Gently put a rope of mindfulness of the mind itself. Not mindful of difficult people or something like that. Mindful of your own mind. Your own mind is more of a stranger that you should be careful than the stranger. People say don't talk to strangers, I would say don't talk your deluded mind. Don't listen to your deluded mind. That is really the very gist of this chapter. This chapter is how do we remain vigilant? How do we remain vigilant in terms of alerting yourself about the danger of this creating inner foes that doesn't exist even outside, and then you will find all kind of hostile forces against you because you can see them everywhere because you don't even know that your mind is projecting them. But one who sees the mind is projecting them, he will treat the objects a little bit more sanely and kindly because he knows they are not what they appears. They are fabricated, exaggerated by your own untamed mind. One who knows how much his own mind is not tamed has heeded to this chapter, has heeded to these 12 verses we have read tonight. So that's a very, very important kind of lesson, is how to guard our mind. The meditation is try to be with your mind, and watch it, and not let it project on the empty screen things that doesn't exist. Because if you project and you don't know you're the projector, you might see the object as truly existing from its own side, and that is where your elephant will cause a lot of incarceration and cause a lot of havoc to wherever it goes. Why? The mind is not aware of it. The mind which is aware of that learns to contain itself, exercise self-restraint, because it is tied on the post of mindfulness, whatever they are: prayers, self-discipline, meditation, kindness to your people, courtesy to people, generous to people, think kindly of other people. When you are trying to train your mind to do that, this elephant does a wonderful job. You wouldn't believe how are all product of a beautiful mind. Or most of them are product of a beautiful mind that has lost its way. But it's never too late to regain your control of the mind. And that's why we are learning and reading this chapter in particular. So with this, we will conclude here. Of course, we only stop talking, but you can continue thinking along this line. This is about how to guard one's mind. And now it's beginning to show something I need to exercise, direct my effort energy in taming my mind, and see all of those projection of one's own mind, and not get swayed by these ill-fated projections of my own deluded mind. But I instead cannot project them, because if you're projecting a picture there, you don't like it, just take it back, rewind it, and don't play it. Don't play up again. Don't play it back again and again. All the past projection. Lots of the people's attitude towards someone and each other is always that what they thought he was then, there, and what somebody said to you. They never have actually their mind of its own to see good for what they are. Everybody has a Buddha nature. Everybody has good qualities. When you have guarded your mind, you care to see we think like that. You don't lump a person with one or two mistakes they make. You don't do that. You should be generous to them, be that your son, be that your father, be that your mother, whoever they are. Be a bit generous to each other. Don't lump them with one episode of a mistake or blunder they made. You know, unless you have never made any blunder, you should be so good at not lumping them with that. You know, who hasn't made mistakes in life? Because they're all deluded sentient beings. You know, deluded sentient beings. Full stop. And don't expect anyone to be perfect. If you do that, then you'll be very, very impatient. You'll be very intolerant because you can't handle everyone who is imperfect when you are yourself the king of all. And you don't even recognize that. When you don't, you haven't got a clue how to guard the mind. But those who get the clue to do this will get lots. And they really feel, wow, these writings are the things I need to read, I need to practice, I need to gain some kind of upper hand in terms of learning to tame my own mind and then distinguish the projected from the projections. You know, now what you perceive is projected, and the perceived is the thing that you thought is not identical to what you projected. Wow, yeah. Then you can take the label back. Don't call him violent. Don't call him whatever. Don't call him because you call him whatever you thought you projected, you know, or someone projected. Be kind to yourself. Give a break. Take back the label that you stick on the object, and then then you can see the object as it is. Object that is not fabricated or exaggerated by your neurosis. Why? Your mind has been tamed, and it brings lots of good boons. You know, it says when the elephant is tied and tamed, it will do wonderful workloads that even 4 or 5 humans can't do, because this is a tamed elephant. Untamed elephant cause a lot of havoc and distraction in the fields and the farms and everything you wouldn't believe. And so, likewise, lots of people's lives' problems are all self-caused problems due to unruly mind. So therefore, ruling one's mind, taming one's mind is such a great gift. And Shantideva's eloquent writings in this chapter is much to be heeded. Thank you very much, everyone. So now, due to the listening and heeding and thinking and contemplating, and if some of the words and ideas of Shantideva, which are very much a paraphrase teachings of Buddha, how to practice loving kindness to each other, made some sense, try to take a note of them in your mind and life and see what areas of life you can now start to change and transform and subdue. And highlight those things, and make a good habit to read these very verses. If you have a copy of the books that are translated, there are so many translations. So it's Bodhisattva's way of life, very famous topic, Bodhicharya Avatara. This is only the 5th chapter we are reading through. So I'm so benefited myself by reading any time when I read Shantideva, my head nods so much more than previously when I heard and read it before, because I need to do acquaintance with that. I need to read. I need to get into the amazing mind of Shantideva. How wonderful writing of his is giving some kind of flexibility and pliancy in our way of dealing with thoughts and some difficult emotions. They are not so difficult. They're so easy to thwart, so easy to sort of disentangle when you understand how to guard your own mind. So with this, we will dedicate the merits that we act and think and feel and see and hear, and most importantly respond with this kind of self-introspection. Be kind to others. Don't think they are what you thought. if you're thinking someone is very kind or something, of course you don't have to judge, because they probably are. But when you're feeling so insecure and afraid and suspicious and angry and then you be completely safe to think it's all my projection. If your projection, you can stop it. That's the whole good thing about it. If you like your projection, keep it going, because they're so beneficial. We're not saying you shouldn't take your projections, keep your projection if they're good. Some people have lots of love to their mother or father or friend, and their projection is so good. They think their mother is kind, generous, or selfless, and gave so much to me. When they think about that, they really love the mother much more and more. See, this kind of positive projection is perfectly fine, because when you do that, then there's nothing wrong with the projection if it's useful projection. But problem is most of them are useless projection. It's just like there are so many movies, most of them are useless. There are only one or two that are worth watching. It's like that. All the movies are projected, remember? There's nothing in the theater that is there. It's a dark room and empty screen. It's because of the projected. They appear. So try to understand the analogy of projection and projector and the light and whatever things are necessary to make the still photos move, because movie means all still photos look like moving, but they're not moving at all. They're just still photos. They just make the still photos move at such a speed, and then it looks like they are actually talking and they're still alive, and they're not. They're all projected by the technology and so on. So thank you with this helpful projection of these teachings through the technology into your screen, your screen, and being able to draw some comfort and knowledge is of course a great benefit. So with this in mind, I will do the dedication merits. You can also join me by thinking, maybe by doing this, maybe have people who can discover their mind and learn to work with it and tame it, and therefore change their perception. And as a result of that, may they be able to practice powerful self-restraint of their thoughts, words, and deeds with great grace and dignity. Om Bade Mere Mewe Hovaraga Da Defa Menzenge Homneze Me Aile Bere Robe from the ocean of Odesinade Herenda Mahayana Deje Whatever merit I have me Begazeleves to hold the Mahayana Dije courage Manjushine Asama the Badra de Live follow it all the Hezambo I shall all the matter Meda Esalembo Jeda Tabave Erana Yedaza where has been Bometing freely with the generation. Thank you, everyone. Take care and mind the introspective use of your thought. Thank you.